All right, we have a lot of announcements to make.
We do.
We are going to be starting a Patreon soon. We have all the tiers worked out and everything. You can donate as little as $1 a month, and there are perks for all 5 tiers, so you'll get sneak peeks and some other stuff we
Shout
added.
outs. We're going to do little book/movie clubs and live episodes. Lots of fun stuff.
Yeah, so check well, it's not up yet, but we'll announce probably next episode when our Patreon is launched, so that will be super fun.
Yeah.
And
Yay!
Yeah, and donating $1 is fantastic. We're not expecting a lot out of this. We just figured we'd throw it out there. Really, anything is going to help us.
Yeah, and if you want to donate a flat $5 or $10 to us, you can always subscribe, donate once, cut it off.
Yep.
So I guess there's that option. I wish they would allow a flat donation, but they don't. So it's just the way the website we're using works.
Yep.
So what else do we have to announce?
We got our PayPal started for t-shirt orders, so that should be going up soon as well. I'm sure it'll go up at the same time as the Patreon, right?
I think
Around
so.
the same time.
I think we should definitely launch those at the same time. And we're going to be trying to find a service that suits us so you can manually go on there and buy the t-shirt and stuff like that. So we're getting the kinks worked out. It's all coming through. So, and we have a pretty exciting thing we're doing today. So we're going to announce our t-shirt winner from our movie monster competition. We had people send us their favorite movie monsters and why they liked them, and we had some really great submissions. So thank you guys who took the time to write that up.
Yeah.
But we are announcing our winner right now. So
all right. So I'm just gonna read the email first before I announce their name. The Xenomorph is the best movie monster. I don't care if it's been said a million times before. These are just facts. Firstly, the aliens can lay eggs without them needing to be fertilized because the queens are strong, independent women who don't need a man. Secondly, the facehugger stage of birthing seeks out a surrogate to carry the embryo because aliens know childbirth is no easy task and there is no shame in getting help. Truly giving life lessons. You just have to know where to look for them. Then we get into defense, and I mean, hello, sometimes you just gotta spit on a motherfucker, and if that spit happens to be acid, then maybe they shouldn't have been messing with your things in the first place. And who wouldn't want a little last chance at revenge after being killed by having acid blood? Oh, you thought it was cute to shoot me? Well, guess who's got a big hole in their ship now, asshole? Xenomorphs are cat people. In Alien 3, our poor doggy friend gets the old heave-ho, but Jonesy remains unscathed. Everyone loves ginger cats. Last but not least, look at them. They're so freaking cool, I rest my case. So that was Clarice, and we thought that entry was absolutely perfect, and it was so fun.
it thoroughly entertained
Yes.
us. We were just laughing so much when we read it.
Yes. It was very well thought out, and it was just a lot of fun.
So congratulations, Clarice.
Yay.
Thanks for your
Congrats.
submission and your
what
support.
a great entry. Oh my god. It was so good.
Awesome. So I have to give an honorable mention to another submission. Jordan submitted a really thoughtful post on how Victor Frankenstein is a monster and how his choices were completely unethical and how he was irresponsible for the life he had created. And it was really an awesome honorable mention. So thank you, Jordan, for taking the time to submit that to us. It was great.
Yes, it was. It was very well thought out.
So
And I felt like everyone who entered, everyone's entries were really well thought out. No one just, I really appreciated, I think we all did, that no one just sent a sentence. Like, my favorite monster is Dracula. Thank you.
Yeah.
Everybody had, a really well-thought-out reason, explanation, all of that kind of thing for why they were submitting that movie monster. So I really appreciated that.
Yeah.
And thank you, everyone, for taking the time to enter. It was so fun to read everybody's.
Definitely. We have to do something like this another
And we
time.
didn't have any repeats, which I actually also thought was really fun.
Yeah, they were all different. All completely original.
Yeah.
So,
Yep.
thanks, guys.
Yeah.
All
That was
right.
so fun. Hopefully we'll get to do it again.
Yeah, we
in
can.
the future.
Yeah, we have to set up some sort of giveaway periodically because it's just too much fun to see what people think about this stuff. And yeah, so this is the part I love so much about doing this. Warm feelings about scary things. So today we're going to be talking about our favorite fictional haunted houses, probably sometime in the late future. We're going to be talking about our favorite quote-unquote real haunted houses. But today, these are our favorite not real spooks. Places of residence. I don't know. So we're going to have Rachel go first with her very classic and classy, as usual, pick.
Always. So my pick for my favorite haunted house is Hill House from The Haunting of Hill House by Shirley Jackson. This is a classic book. If anyone, I know that Nikki and Miranda have not read it, but if anyone else has also not read it, I highly recommend it. You can get it on your Kindle. You can always get it at the library. It's not hard to find. And she is truly, I mean, not just one of the greatest horror writers of all time, but I think she's one of the greatest writers of all time. I mean, just her way with words is really beautiful and really poetic. So this book came out in 1959. So the basic plot of the book is there's this house called Hill House, and it's this huge mansion. It's been around for 80 years. They say that very specifically. And it was built by this man named Hugh Crane. And he built it for his first wife. And they get married. They're going to Hill House. There's like this really long, twisty driveway going up to Hill House. They're in their carriage. And they take the turn. Or I think he's not with her, actually. I think she's the only one that's in the carriage. But they take the turn. And the carriage crashes into a tree and she dies.
Oh, jeez.
So it automatically starts out with this, like, bad juju, I guess you could call it. And it just continues. I mean, there are murders and suicides and all kinds of horrible things that happen in this house. And eventually Hugh Crane dies, and Hill House is kind of abandoned. There are two caretakers there, the Dudleys. They basically just keep the house and the grounds intact, but they don't live there. They live in the town. So there's this doctor, Dr. Montague, and he decides that he wants to find, as they always do in these kinds of books, scientific evidence of the supernatural. So he rents Hill House for the whole summer, so we can assume for like 2 or 3 months. And he invites a bunch of people who have past experience with paranormal events. Only 2 of them end up replying and going. So you have this woman named Eleanor, and Eleanor she's kind of the main character. She is really shy. She has basically lived as a recluse her entire life with her mother, who was an invalid. And now she's living with her sister and her sister's husband and their kids. And she lives on a couch, basically. And she's, like, in her... I mean, I don't think they give an age, but you can guess that she's in, like, her mid to late 30s. So she's, you know, an adult. I mean, she's not, like, in her 20s. She's nearing middle age. When she was a child, there were reports of stones raining on her house and poltergeist activity within her house. And they all seem to mainly involve her. So the doctor gets this idea that she might be telekinetic. So that's why she was invited. The other responder is a woman named Theodora. She's kind of this, like, flamboyant artist. It's heavily hinted in the book, which, because this book came out in the 50s, they couldn't just say it. But it's heavily hinted in the book that she's a lesbian. There are some allusions to her being different, and Eleanor, at one point, they're having a fight, and she makes comments about her being sick and being, I don't know, just there's something wrong with her, basically. And I assume if you read it at that time, you would understand that it meant that she was a lesbian. I didn't understand that because it's, you know, I read this book in like 10 years ago. And then the fourth person that ends up coming to the house is this guy named Luke. And Luke is the heir to the house, but he doesn't live there. He basically just wants to sell it. So he kind of wants to disprove that there are ghosts there so that he can, like, unload this house, because it's not doing anybody any good. So as they are there, strange events, of course, start happening. One of the best parts about this book is that you don't actually know if the house is haunted. There is a sense that Eleanor is creating the hauntings with her telekinetic ability. You never see a ghost. The only two people who are haunted are Eleanor and Theodora. The two men never really see anything, or at least anything of significance. I mean, there's a scene where Eleanor and Theodora are where Eleanor's in her room, Theodora's in her room next door, and all of a sudden there's this horrible banging. I mean, it sounds like a cannonball going off against Eleanor's door. And Theodora comes running over, and they're, like, clutching and screaming, and the door is, like, pressing inward. Someone is beating on it so hard. And the two men hear them screaming and come running and can't get the door open, and when they finally do, they didn't hear anything. All they heard were the women screaming.
Wow. I remember that scene from The Haunting, the movie.
Yes.
It's very effective. I love it.
Yes. So that sort of ties back to Eleanor being the source of the haunting, because at the beginning of the book, her mother has already passed away, but you learn through flashbacks some of the stuff that happened with her mother. And one of the things is that in the middle of the night, when her mother needed something, she would take her cane and she would bang on the wall to Eleanor's bedroom. And the night that her mother died, she was banging on the wall, and Eleanor was like, "That's it, I'm not answering this time."
Oh,
and then her mother died. So as this goes on, Eleanor starts to lose it. She starts to become more and more and more unhinged, almost obsessed with the house. She believes that she is in the house for a reason. I don't want to spoil the ending because you guys haven't read it, so I won't. But it ends on a really ironic, I guess you could say, note. I don't know if ironic is the right word. In the end, the question's never answered if the house is haunted. It's up to you. It's up to you to decide. So the author, she's so effective at setting the scene. The first page of the book just has, like, my favorite passage from the book, so I'll just read it. No live organism can continue for long to exist sanely under conditions of absolute reality. Even larks and katydids are supposed by some to dream. Hill House, not sane, stood by itself against its hills, holding darkness within. It had stood for 80 years and might stand for 80 more. Within, walls continued upright, bricks met neatly, floors were firm, and doors were sensibly shut. Silence lay steadily against the wood and stone of Hill House, and whatever walked there walked alone.
Oh my god. Oh god, chills up the neck. Just got him.
Oh my god. And the book ends, I mean, again, I'm not going to ruin it, but the book ends with that exact same paragraph with a slight modification, and it's just one of the most effective book endings I have ever read. To me, like, the greatest ending of a book is the end of, like, the last couple paragraphs of The Great Gatsby, and then this is, like, directly below it. Like, almost the same level.
Yes.
And, it's just so good. Her writing. So, anyone that's gone to our blog, you know, we have our little bios, which are modified from horror books, and mine is actually from We Have Always Lived in the Castle, which is also by Shirley Jackson.
I just got a copy of that. It came into the store, Rachel.
So good.
I'm so excited to read it.
Read it. So this book, as Nikki mentioned, has been adapted into 2 movies, and actually, I just heard, is being adapted into a miniseries by Netflix.
Yes!
So
Netflix is really coming through, man.
Oh,
like, they're doing so
Netflix.
much.
I am excited to an extent. I am nervous because this source material is really easy to mess up. So the first adaptation of this book came out in 1963. It's just called The Haunting. It is probably one of the greatest horror movies ever made. And a ton of people have not seen it, but I know that one time I was watching something on TCM, and like Martin Scorsese was doing his favorite horror movies, and he picked this one as number 1, and it's always ranked really high. The movie sticks to the plot of the book almost exactly. I mean, they change a couple of things, but like there's a subplot where these outsiders come to the house in the book, and they cut that from the movie because it's not necessarily needed, that kind of thing. But the way that they filmed this movie, I mean, they purposefully did all of the sets. So a lot of the time on movie sets, when you're doing a house, a room won't actually have a ceiling because, like, what's the point? They purposefully made sure that all of the sets had ceilings so that it feels very claustrophobic. Like you are in this house. They used a type of Panavision lens that was still in development so that some shots are kind of distorted. I mean, you feel very off balance and scared watching this movie.
Yeah.
And this movie does a great job of not showing the ghost. I mean, again, it doesn't give in to that impulse. So the other version, which unfortunately is the one that everyone has seen.
I can't believe I have not seen that one.
Okay.
But I have seen the original, and I'm lucky because Jake ran cinema club. He was also my teacher at one point.
Okay.
And he ran a cinema club when I was in high school, and we would vote on classic movies, and he showed us The Haunting, and that was the first time I saw it, and I'm so glad. But I feel like many people don't have the exposure to it.
So, you know how I was saying I would have picked House on Haunted Hill? So when I was talking about that, I was literally thinking of this movie. I was getting the two movies mixed up.
And I said
I had seen the remake when I was a kid. And so
I
haven't seen it in a long time.
And I said, isn't that an adaptation of this? And I was confused.
Yeah, I don't know how you knew what I was thinking about, but you did.
So the remake, I felt like gave into kind of the worst impulses in that not only does it show the ghost multiple times, I mean, there is a literal ghost in it. First of all, I didn't think it was scary at all. Whereas the original movie, I think, is scary. It adds, like, all of these subplots about, like, child slavery and, like, all of this shit that this movie didn't need. This is a scary story by itself. There's a reason that this story has been out for almost 60 years.
Yeah, it was 57.
And it's still considered one of the greatest, scariest books ever written. So I never understand this impulse to try and, like, improve, quote unquote, on the original. Like, it was fine the way it was. I don't get it. I did not like the remake, obviously. I saw it in the theater when it came out with my dad, and I had seen the original when I was, like, 12. Because, of course, my parents were, like 8 years old when this movie came out, so they saw it. They saw it in the theater as kids. So I'd already seen the original, so the remake I strongly disliked.
Was the remake the remake was 1999 then.
Yeah, with Catherine Zeta-Jones.
Yeah. I saw that when I was a kid, so it's been a long time since I've seen it, but it's always, for some reason I've always thought it was House on Haunted Hill. I don't even know if I've seen House on Haunted Hill now that I think about it, because when you told me that it was about a mental institution, I was like, what?
And I thought it was that movie.
Yeah, I turned to my dad, I was like, what is she talking about?
House on Haunted Hill is about a mental institution.
Yeah, I need to see if I've even seen that.
We're experts.
Oh my gosh.
You're not missing anything. So, the original House on Haunted Hill with Vincent Price, which I believe I also said on Facebook, is really great. Because it's really campy. I mean, it's a Vincent Price movie. But, in any case...
Now I need to know.
So that's my pick. It's scary. It's well written. If I know there are people out there who I don't understand, but whatever, who don't like to read. So... if you are that kind of person, I am dating a person like that. He does not like to read. If you are that kind of person, I think you could watch the 1963 movie and still get the same experience as you would reading the book.
I've seen House on Haunted Hill, too. I'm so confused. I don't even know what's happening anymore. I can't keep track of anything.
Layers and layers and layers.
Too many horror movies, and a lot of the time...
Last week when we were discussing what we were going to pick, at first I said House on Haunted Hill. And then I was like, no, wait, Haunting of Hill House.
And you said that too? Oh my god.
I think I did last week when we were discussing what we might pick. Yeah, so this is my pick. So read the book, watch the movie, do both. Do not watch the remake.
Mm-hmm. It's great. I wish I could say that I read the book. I really want to. But from what I've experienced of the movie, it's just like this really aesthetic thing. Mm-hmm. I think my favorite kind of ghost story is a haunted house story or haunted hotel or like haunted building of any capacity. And it's just, there's so much to be said about that plot of the house that has built up negative energy over a series of years. For a Halloween countdown, probably the second week, I want to do the first season of American Horror Story because I think it reflected that so well.
Yeah.
But it reflected that in the spirit of tradition of books and movies like The Haunting and The Haunting of Hill House. And I just love it, not in reality, because I honestly sometimes believe it's real. I like when a place has just become its own entity, that it's like breathing, you know?
Yeah.
It just makes it so scary because when you're in it, like you think of home as a safe place, right? And then when you're in your home, you think of it as its own entity. Well, sometimes that can turn on you and sometimes just bad things just keep happening. Yeah. And that's why when I read, The Little Stranger, that's why it just got me.
And The Little Stranger reminded me a lot of this book.
And it was probably written in the tradition of that book because...
it definitely was. It definitely was written in the tradition of Shirley Jackson.
I just love it so much. It gives you that ultimate scared feeling.
There is the sense that the house has become this living thing, but then there's also, I think both with The Little Stranger and with Haunting of Hill House, this sense that the haunting is coming from outside the house.
And I almost said that I didn't want to interrupt you while we were talking, but I was thinking exactly of that the person is creating this negative stuff that's happening. And that is an idea I've become obsessed with recently. It's like, the fact that our brains can manifest something and make it its own thing. That's the most terrifying thing.
And not even be aware. I mean, certainly in Haunting of Hill House, if it is Eleanor, and again, it's up to you to decide when you finish reading the book if the house is really haunted or if it was her the whole time causing the hauntings, or if the house is haunted but was just waiting for someone like her to come in and feed off her energy,
right? And it just
in order to manifest these hauntings. But she's not aware. If she's causing the haunting, she doesn't know it. I mean, she's not doing it on purpose. She's just as scared as everybody else.
Mm-hmm. And it's probably, that's interesting because it's like either the ghost that she didn't create is mocking her past trauma by doing the cane tapping or the cannonball thing on the door, or either her trauma, her mind, that latent energy is creating that phenomena. It's just so interesting in those things.
And I also think that it's notable that the two people who are haunted are the two women. I mean, Eleanor is completely sexually repressed. This is a woman who is, they don't say, but she is probably still a virgin. She has clearly never had a boyfriend. And the doctor is nice to her. And she mistakes his human kindness as, like, coming on to her. And he's married, and he's not interested. But she cannot interpret his feelings. So she's one that's being haunted. And then the other person who's really being haunted is the lesbian, who clearly is living, at the time, this alternative lifestyle that was considered someone having a mental illness. She becomes really attached to Eleanor in a protective way. But as I said, she and Eleanor end up fighting because Eleanor's losing her mind. And Eleanor, again, is misinterpreting her feelings as romantic. That, of course you're being really nice to me because you're a gross lesbian and you just want to, like, corrupt me. Which is not the case at all. Like, again, she's just trying to be nice. And so I always found it interesting that the two women where sexuality is really kind of a big part of their character, at opposite ends. I mean, Theodora is very, like, beautiful, and she dresses, like, really, she's kind of a bohemian, so she dresses really exotically, that kind of thing. So she's very comfortable in who she is and her sexuality, but it's still considered taboo. And then you have Eleanor, who has nothing, who at the time I'm sure would have been called a spinster, and they are the two that the house decides to feed off of. Because Theodora sees things that Eleanor doesn't in the book, and you never really find out what they are, but she sees things.
So
her psychic ability, she has ESP.
Oh, okay. So the haunting is personal to whoever.
It is, but Eleanor is the narrator.
Right.
I wonder if the house is just like a conduit.
And that's the thing, is the house just feeding off of them and their memories. But you never find out. Again, you have to read it. It's up to you to decide.
It kind of reminds me of Rose Matter. I haven't read the book.
I haven't read it.
But I've seen the movie. And it kind of reminds me of it.
Of, what was that one Stephen King that he did for TV?
Bag of Bones.
No.
That was a ghost story?
Rose Red.
Oh, Rose Red. I need to see that.
That's Rose Matter.
Bag of Bones was... Really?
Yes.
Oh!
Rose Matter is different.
No, Rose Matter is the book. Rose Red,
Was adapted?
That's what my understanding was.
No, Rose Red, he wrote for TV.
Oh.
Yeah, it was like a gothic story, wasn't it?
Well, Rose Red is based on, I think it's like a combination of Hill House and the Winchester House.
Okay.
I need to see that. Sorry, I just made a really weird noise.
Well, Rose Red is what I was thinking of. I thought it, for some reason...
Funny.
We just can't figure out what anything is called
I don't know what I'm doing.
Okay. We got there in the end. That's what counts.
Things are so close in theme that it's like
Yeah.
you just can't figure out like what it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
More original titles, people. Come on.
No kidding.
I've
Yeah, I
never
need
read
to read
Rose
it.
Matter, but I know that Rose Red was written for TV because you can buy the tie-in diary.
I know, we have had it at the store.
The tie-in.
Which I
What?
bought
Like,
and read.
Heard that like the character's diary like was written.
What the heck?
Yeah,
I didn't even know that existed.
If I see it, I'll get it for you. Like if it comes
Yeah,
in,
that'd be
so you
awesome.
can- But yeah.
But
That's
in any case, Haunting of Hill House.
that's an awesome
Read
pick.
it. Read literally everything else she ever wrote. She's probably most famous for this short story she wrote called The Lottery. That one is usually one that people read in college.
I think I know that one.
College classes.
Yeah, I think I read that actually like 2 semesters ago.
Yeah, a lot of people. Like,
It's-
if you take any kind of short story class in college, you usually read The Lottery.
Yeah, I didn't even realize. That's the one where it's like the town and they vote to kill people or something. I can't
With
even
the
remember.
public stoning.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, I use that as examples all the time.
Yeah.
I have
It's a good one.
Lottery is probably what she's most famous for, but I've never read anything bad by her. And actually, a new biography about her just came out, so I'm on like the world's longest waiting list at the library for it. She's great.
Awesome.
Read everything she writes, guys. Not just this book. Read everything.
That was such an awesome pick.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
Yeah, she is a classic.
All right, so I picked The Rats in the Walls by H.P. Lovecraft. It's just a short story. It was a lot of fun. I hadn't read a lot of H.P. Lovecraft. What I had read before this, I thought was kind of boring. I had a really hard time sticking to it because he's kind of got a really dry,
Verbose sort of
Yes.
way of.
and it's like, I think the last one I tried to read before I went to bed, and I think that was my mistake. Because I could not focus. I swear, every sentence I was like off thinking about something else. Like, oh, what am I going to do tomorrow? Oh, wait, I'm supposed to be reading this. But when I read this one, I really enjoyed it. It was a lot of fun. I think it's pretty well known for being a haunted house story, but basically what it's about is this main character. They don't even really say the main character's name, but he buys his ancestral home called the Exum Priory, and he plans to restore it. And this is his description of it, which I just thought was beautiful. Exum Priory itself I saw without emotion. A jumble of tottering medieval ruins covered with lichens and honeycombed with rook's nests. I can't fucking talk today.
The rocks, they made nests.
Damn it.
God.
Oh my
Sorry, go ahead.
Oh my god. I'm gonna have to edit so much out. Okay. Perched perilously upon a precipice and denuded of floors or other interior features save the stone walls of the separate towers. So I just thought that was a really beautiful description. Like, the thing with Lovecraft, I notice, is that sometimes his descriptions go too far, but other times you get these jewels in the middle of nowhere where you're like, oh my god, that was so pretty. Yeah. Okay.
Same with Poe.
Yes. Yeah. So he finds out that the townspeople are scared of this house, and they pretty much start to be scared of him and hate him. Again, here's another quote. It's just a really good description. What the people could not forgive, perhaps, was that I had come to restore a symbol so abhorrent to them, for, rationally or not, they viewed Exham Priory as nothing less than a haunt of fiends and werewolves. There were a lot of... Yeah, isn't that great? There were a lot of legends about this house, and I'll get into them a little bit later, but basically the whole town is just terrified of this house. He does a little research on it because he keeps hearing strange things about the house, and he learns that there was a Sybil temple. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think so.
That once stood there, and there were just tons of cults, including them, and just tons of cults afterwards, and it was just a bad area in general. It's almost like, I want to say like Indian burial grounds, like bad things just keep happening in those areas.
A lot of like energy, if you disturb the area, the energy is going to get, come after you, sort of.
Yeah, so, yeah, he's doing all this research. He finds a lot of just bad things about the house. But he's hearing tales that claim that the De La Poor family, which that's his last name, people thought of them as demons and claimed they were responsible for several disappearances throughout the town. The heirs of the family seem to die very unexpectedly. So there was a rumor that a horde of rats just escaped from the house and were devouring animals and brought curses to the village. Lots of these different weird rumors, but the rat one was probably the most prominent throughout. So the restoration ends after 2 years, and he moves in. He learns that the last owner, who was Walter de la Poor, was accused of killing all the other members of the household. He had apparently received some very bad news, which was believed to cause the murders, and he got off really easy. Like, he just left after he did it. There was no bad words said about him. He just left. The owner of the house, when he moves in, has 9 cats. And the cats are acting extremely strange. They're, like, clawing at the walls and at one point meowing at the cellar door. And our main character starts hearing rats, but there's no way that rats could get into the house. They lay traps all around the house, and at one point he goes around and all the rat traps are sprung, but there's nothing in them.
Fuck no.
Yeah. So he keeps...
No kidding, I would leave.
Yeah.
This is disgusting.
He keeps hearing these rats, and his servants aren't hearing anything. He's the only one hearing them. And at one point, he wakes up in the middle of the night, and he hears them it just sounds like a stampede in his walls, and they're all moving downward. And at the same moment, a servant comes to him and says, all of your cats are at the cellar door, meowing, and just going nuts. So, of course, for the dumbest reason, they decide they have to go down into the cellar, and they stay overnight.
Dude, you board that shit up, and you don't go down there.
So they stay the night in the cellar, and while they're staying there, he starts hearing the rats again, and the cat is one of his cats is clawing at an altar that's in the basement, and just clawing at it like crazy. Yeah, and like one of the blocks that's down in the cellar has it's very obvious that things were burned on it. But yeah, let's sleep in the cellar. That's a good idea. They realize that there is something underneath the altar, so they get out of the house, and they assemble a group to explore it. Well, they finally get a group of people, and they move the altar, and they open up this door that leads elsewhere, which they didn't even think it could go any further down. And they see these stairs, and it's just completely covered in human bones.
That's cool.
Yeah, I would say a little unsettling. So basically, they just kind of brush them to the side. It's like they're not even disturbed at this point. But they move them out of the way, and they go down the stairs. They find this giant grotto.
It's like below the basement?
Yeah.
Or like through a wall? Or through?
It's like they go down these stairs and it's just through a tunnel, like a rock tunnel, and
and then it opens up.
Yeah, and they say in there that it almost looks like it was created from the inside. Like they didn't dig it from the cellar. They dug it from inside. Yeah.
No. Get out of the house.
So here's the description. It was a twilit grotto of enormous height, stretching away farther than any eye could see, a subterraneous world of limitless mystery and horrible suggestion. There were buildings and other architectural remains. In one terrified glance, I saw a weird pattern of tumuli, a savage circle of monoliths, a low-domed Roman ruin, a sprawling Saxon pile, and an early English edifice of wood. But all these were dwarfed by the ghoulish spectacle presented by the general surface of the ground. For yards about the steps extended an insane tangle of human bones, or bones at least as human as those on the steps. Like a foamy sea they stretched, some fallen apart, but others wholly or partly articulated as skeletons. These later invariably in postures of demonic frenzy, either fighting off some menace or clutching other forms with cannibal intent. This ginormous grotto that they can't even see the end of is completely covered in bones, human bones, which is absolutely insane. So what they find is that some of these humans look to have gone backwards in evolution, and some of them actually turned into quadrupeds. And these quadrupeds were kept in cages.
No way, man.
So they...
Dude, no fucking way. It's like The Descent. I was just talking, like, the different evolution of humans of the, like, underground. Oh, no.
Yep. So what they kind of figure out from all of this is that these humans were kept in cages and treated like cattle. And William, the man who killed all the family in his sleep, left after he killed the whole household and left everybody that was in this grotto, left them there for the rats. The rats ate them.
Oh no.
Yes.
Oh.
They were eaten by the rats. And then the rats ate each other, and then they were dead. And they're all absolutely horrified by all of this. Some of them pass out. It's just described so well. So they continue on. How they are able to do this, I don't even know, because I'm just, like, disgusted at this point. They find this immense tunnel, like, just these tunnels everywhere, going deeper and deeper into the earth. And they're following these corridors, going down this pitch-black tunnel. Mm-hmm. And his cat takes off.
No. Is the cat okay?
The cat's fine.
Okay. I'm sorry.
Okay.
It's the cat you don't have.
Listen, that's always my first concern. I'm like, does the animal live? Because if not, I'm not going to read it.
Yes.
No, the cats are fine. I want to give away the ending of this just because part of me doesn't want to because it's so good, but at the same time, it's so good.
I mean, that might get people to read more Lovecraft. That's fine.
Yeah,
I mean, I haven't read this story, but he has so many short stories to read, and...
Yeah.
Yeah.
Seriously, like, even if I ruin this, it's just... I knew what this was about before I read it, and it still does not compare to reading it, because it's so well written. But basically, all we know is that our narrator is found in one of these pitch-black tunnels with his friend, who is half-eaten, and his cat on his shoulder, who is gnawing on his neck. And he is speaking a mixture of English, Latin, and Welsh. He's taken to a mental institution, and he still believes it was the rats who killed his friend, and he still hears the rats.
Okay, so the negative, your friend was killed, but the positive, you learned 2 languages.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And that was quick,
my gosh.
Man. That was very quick.
Well, the way that Lovecraft, like, describes this moment, because he's the main character, and so you are following him the whole time. So you are with him while he descends into madness, and you don't even know what's happening at first. Because after all this is happening, it goes into, and this is how they found me, with my half-eaten friend, and you're like, holy shit, did that just happen? It's phenomenal. It's just so well written. I had so much fun reading it, and it's horrifying. I mean, I almost think I'm gonna have nightmares tonight thinking about it, because the imagery is just incredible. I do have to say, though, I know I need to throw this out there, because when I say Lovecraft, everybody thinks of one thing, and that's racism. This book does not really have any of that in there. The main cat has a really terrible name, but that's it.
I don't know. I'm not sure.
What's the cat's name?
I'm not going to say the cat's name.
I'm not sure that everyone.
Does it have the N-word in it?
Yes.
I'm not sure that everyone thinks immediately racism when they think Lovecraft. I think they think Cthulhu. But
I don't know. Every time, like,
it was brought up to me that overwhelmingly his stories are quite racist.
The biggest thing that I've heard about him is not necessarily racism, but him being anti-Semitic.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, there's that too.
There are a lot of, like, crooked nose Jewish people in the greasy Jewish people in his stories.
Yeah.
I mean, but that's how they're portrayed, unfortunately. I don't know. Sometimes I can almost look I've actually never read an H.P. Lovecraft story, even though I have, like, 3 short story collections by him sitting on my bookshelf. I've just never gotten around to it.
I've read one, so you're not alone.
Sometimes I can overlook it because I think, well, a product of his time.
Miranda and I were talking about that earlier, is that, you know, I mean, this story was
also, it's like, but it's not like you didn't know it was wrong at the time.
Right. Well, what we were talking about, this story was written in 1923, okay, and then, there's some things wrong with it. We can't ignore those. We have to acknowledge those as wrong, of course. But we can still get some good things out of the story, even though.
Exactly. I agree. I think anytime you're dealing with an author from that period or earlier, you're bound to run into something.
While I was kind of reading about him, it sounds like even his friends at the time were kind of like, dude, you gotta chill. Like, this is bad.
Right.
Yeah.
That's what I mean. Like, it's not like he didn't know it was wrong.
Yeah, like, it wasn't just like, part of the times. He was like, even part of the times, he was bad.
Well, also,
even
like,
his friends were like, dude.
There's always been that basic morality where I think a lot of people knew it was wrong, but they still...
Yeah.
I mean, it wasn't ever like people thought unequivocally that this was the right thing to do. I mean, they knew it was wrong, or some part of them knew it was wrong, or, so...
Right.
Yeah. I thought I'd just throw that out there, because it is a hot topic with him. If that is something that you avoid, I would say that this is probably a good one. This isn't even listed as one of his, like, really bad ones. He has a few that are, like, awful, apparently.
I read one called The Outsider in a Gothic short story class. I really enjoyed it. It's a really short one to get a taste of Lovecraft. All I picked up on was I wrote an essay on the tarot symbolism in it, and I'm not sure he intended that, but there was a lot of really, like, parallels with tarot cards in it. I wrote an essay on that, but The Outsider's a great one. It's kind of almost like the Mask of the Red Death in a way, where, like, someone's dead, they don't realize they're dead and stuff, and then it's, like, this really cool journey of the ghost, from the ghost perspective. So it's
cool.
great.
Yeah, I need to read more. I have this whole book. I guess Nikki has this
I have it too, yes.
I have this whole book of his stuff, and I've only read 2 of them so far, so...
They're wordy, and, you can take them a chunk at a time.
Yeah, I separated this one into 2 parts, because I already knew, it was like, this is going to be hard to read all at once, even though it's so short. It's like, I gotta break it up.
Great. I love that pick.
Yeah, it's such a good read.
What a creepy story. And I definitely... Like I said, he's one that I've just never gotten around to. His short stories that were released in, like, 5 different books, like, depending on the theme of the story. And I got, like, 3 out of the 5 over the years at the book rack. And I have them. I've just never, like, gotten around to it. I will, eventually.
Yeah, I think
I've always wanted to. I think I've seen a movie based on one of his stories.
Deal.
Did he write at the Mountain of... He did.
Yeah.
At the Mountains of Madness.
Yeah.
Was not a movie. Never mind.
I mean, whatever.
Anyway, I'm obviously thinking of something else. Ignore me.
We're just confused today.
We are. We're really struggling. I'm glad it's not just me, though.
Okay.
All right. Well, I think that's all I have to say. You're
Loved
up.
it. The rats freak me out.
Oh my
There's
gosh.
a Stephen King short story.
Oh, Night Shift. Well, it's in Night Shift.
Well, there's one in Night Shift, but there's also one in Full Dark, No Stars. The first one where the farmer kills his wife and then the rats are everywhere. I The lights were on for a week after I read that thing. I may have even mentioned this story before in the podcast.
Oh, yeah.
It bothered me so much. But
Yeah.
things with rats are not okay. I need to get a pet rat so I can be like, rats are fine. I
Yeah.
think they're fine, like, by themselves, but in groups, they freak me out.
Yeah. They've got a power to them. Well, I mean, in that Night Shift
They
short
could chew
story.
you up.
Well, don't
Like-
they turn into a giant rat in the
Yeah,
Night Shift
they
short
do.
story? Yeah. Not in the movie, they don't. There
Yuck.
just is one, but... Yeah, rats don't get to me, but this short story really freaked me out.
Yeah.
It really, oh my gosh, yeah. And I think that short story in Night Shift really got to me too.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what it is.
I don't know. It's just there's something primal about involving rats in the story, and the rats don't have to mean rats. They're just like the thing chewing
Yeah.
you away.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Yeah.
It's awful. No, I think mine is a little softer.
Yours is so fun.
Mine's a love story. It
A
really
horror
is
love
a
story.
gothic love story.
Yeah.
That's what the director said it was. It's ironic you guys both did a book and I did a movie.
It's a book though, I think. I think it was adapted from a book.
No. It's an original story. I did the film Crimson Peak, which is one of my personal favorite films. It's not a traditional horror movie, but it does have a lot of elements of horror in it. It's, like I said, supposed to be a gothic love story. So I kind of feel like I need to do a plot overview for this one, because the nuances of the plot are what make it fun, and even if you know what's happening, I mean, you can kind of guess what's happening anyway. It's just, you need to know what's going on. So, the film opens with the overvoiced quote, "Ghosts are real, this much I know." The story is told almost from the point of view of our main character named Edith, who is, I assume, a teenager. She's living with her father. Her mother died a long time ago of the black cholera, they said. She's like this very headstrong, awesome woman who wants to become an American novelist.
She's such a badass.
She's a badass in like this soft, awesome, like perfect Victorian societal way.
Yeah.
And she's played by, I'm gonna murder her name, but Mia Wasikowska. I think that's how you say her name.
Which always makes me think of Mike Wazowski from Monsters.
Mike
Every
Wazowski.
time I see her name, I'm like, Mike Wazowski!
Mike Wazowski. She's great. Mia Wasikowska, who's a phenomenal actress. This movie is directed by Guillermo del Toro, who is an awesome director. He really just... He's so wholeheartedly invested in his movies. So it opens with this character, Edith, Mia's character. She lives alone with her father. She's trying to get this novel published, right? And she is super excited because she's going to go see the editor. And that's the first we see of her really in the movie, besides her story about her mother who died, as I said. And the reason she says she knows ghosts are real is because her mother came to her when she was a little girl, and she said, "My child, beware of Crimson Peak." She's trying to get this novel published, like I said. She's going to see the editor, and the editor tells her her handwriting is very nice, but she needs to add a love story. This movie is amazing with the way it comments on these sorts of problems. And there's this exchange with this woman. It's almost like in Titanic when the women come upon Jack teaching Rose how to spit like a man. It's kind of like that exchange where the women, like Rose's mom, is like testing Jack and testing Rose. Well, she comes upon these women and she has her manuscript in her hands and she's like, "Oh, our very own Jane Austen. Though she died a spinster, no?" And Mia's character, Edith, goes, "Actually, I prefer to be Mary Shelley. She died a widow." And she
perfect.
comes up with that just like right off the top of her head. It's amazing. She's this great character. So she's upset and she tells her father, "You know, I'm going to type this manuscript because then they won't recognize my feminine handwriting." So they, and many, many female authors of the time did this. George Eliot, woman, called herself George. So it was a very relevant issue. There's a ghost in the story. And people are like, well, this is a great ghost story, huh? And she goes, no, the ghost is a metaphor for the past. Because all her readers are so stupid that they don't take her stuff seriously and they don't understand that. That theme of literature will come through so much in this movie, which is another thing that I really appreciate. There's actually an article out there called Crimson Peak, The Love Child of Poe and Bronte, that kind of explains some of the Gothic literary influence of this film and all the things that, like, happen in the plot that actually happened in, like, traditional Gothic literature. And it's really cool. You should check it out. So then into Edith's life come Lucille and Thomas Sharp. Thomas Sharp is a baronet. He's played by Tom Hiddleston, who is the personal love of my fucking life. Actually, the character is written for Tom Hiddleston, and we have to understand...
You can tell, like, he's great.
Yeah, we have to understand that Tom Hiddleston's bearing on the Hollywood scene and, like, who he is, like, who he's selling, who he is. So, originally the role of Thomas Sharp was written for Benedict Cumberbatch. And into Edith's life come Tom Hiddleston's character, Thomas Sharp, who's a baronet, who's the heir to this clay mine, who's really struggling financially, and he's trying to convince Edith's father, who's an engineer, that his invention is going to really help mine the clay and save them money, and he should trust him. Well, Edith's father does not trust him, and it's purely an intuition thing. When he shakes hands with Thomas, he says, "Your hands are soft, and you haven't worked a day in your life. And here in America, we have rough hands because we've worked." And, you know, in many other circumstances, this seems a very conservative statement, and Edith's father would be an unlikable character, but he's a very endearing character, and he's absolutely right.
Or do you know who plays him?
I forget the actor's name. Did you know, Rachel?
I don't, but hang on, let me look it up.
For some reason,
have Wikipedia up,
when I look at him, I think John Goodman, but I know that's not him.
Right.
I don't know why I think that.
Jim Beaver.
I have no idea who that is.
Jim Beaver, you said?
He's on, I guess he was on Supernatural. Oh, he was in Deadwood.
He played Bobby in Supernatural. That's how I know who he is.
Well, I didn't because I don't watch Supernatural. But his portrayal of Edith's father is beautiful. He has this beautiful, rather than father's intuition. And Edith is, in this way, almost like a Disney princess gone wrong, where, you know, she's, you know, the mother's out of the picture, she's being raised by the father, she has these aspirations and everything. It almost very much reminded me of Beauty and the Beast in that aspect. He senses that there's something wrong with Thomas, and moreover, Lucille, who his sister, who is played by Jessica Chastain, and Jessica Chastain is amazing. I mean, they're all amazing in this movie.
To me, she was the best part of the movie.
She played this very layered villainess who is just captivating to look at. And Lucille is, as we'll learn, and spoiler, whatever, if you just don't have eyes, she's the mastermind behind all of this stuff. Edith's father does not trust them, so he says, "Look, I know you're interested in my daughter, and you're this, like, cavalier, romantic, charming person, Thomas, but I need you to," as he said, "thoroughly break her heart tonight, because you're leaving, and this check will only clear when you're across the pond, and you've gone away from us." And it was a smart move from him, but, you know, he says her novel is sentimental, and she doesn't know anything about, you know, real life and real pain and everything.
Spoiled rich girl.
And it does break her heart. Yeah. And the next day, a masked figure breaks into her father's work and smashes his face against the sink, and he's dead. And you know what's funny is, like, I kind of paralleled the Lizzie Borden thing with the father, because she has to identify the body and the same injuries have happened.
Oh.
Like, his one side of his face is completely irrecognizable. And with Lizzie Borden, they kind of, like, make it an ew factor. But with her father, it's so sad, because she has to identify the body. She has to lift the sheet back, and she loses her fucking mind. So
don't touch him like that. Don't touch him like that.
She's
He's
like,
going to turn 60 tomorrow.
Yeah, he's my father. He's turning 60 tomorrow, and he's conscious about his weight and everything. Yeah. And like, he wants to be, oh God, it's so sad. Yeah. But you're watching Thomas watch her during this, and you're like, you fucking bastard. Because you know he has something to do with it, or he's letting it happen. Yeah. She ends up marrying Thomas, and they go to his mansion, Allerdale Hall, which is a hot piece of shit. Let me tell you. There's a hole in the ceiling. Like, get that fixed, guys. Plywood, dude.
I don't even get why she agreed to live there when she saw the giant hole in the ceiling.
That's the thing, is I can see the thinking of Edith as stupid and naive, but in that position where you've lost everything that you know and you're in love with this person who's super charming and super convincing, you'll go with him. And you'll go live in his fucking shitty house, and you'll do whatever his crazy fucking sister says, and you'll be miserable, because you have no other option, especially as a woman at this time. Yeah. You can't own money. Like, the money she owned would have had to go to her husband. She had to sign it over to him. And so she's signing over all this money to, like, have the clay mine and the invention he has, like, work. She's isolated, and Thomas won't touch her, which is heartbreaking, 'cause she's in love with him. And the sister's like, you don't need a key to the house. Drink this tea. And, you know, obviously they're poisoning.
It was like, so unsubtle. It's just like, have some tea. Like, what are you doing?
It's a traditional, gothic romance.
Oh, it totally
it's
is.
so on point. So, obviously, they're trying to poison her to get the money. Edith finds out through seeing ghosts. The ghosts of Thomas's former wives that have been poisoned. That he's just trying to get the money, and he's always done this. And she finds out Lucille's really mastermind behind this. But the ghosts of the wives, as we said, is just a metaphor for the past, as Edith said in her story, which is totally true. Near the end, we find out that, you know, Thomas and Lucille's mother was brutally murdered in the bathtub with one hatchet swing that nearly split her head in two. And Edith
a lot of
sees
strength.
the ghost sitting in the bathtub. It takes a lot of crazy is what it takes. Sees the ghost sitting in the bathtub, you know, and it's following her. Like, these ghosts, they appear as either omens or they're trying to tell Edith something. Her first ghost was her mother when she was younger, and that was the omen bringer. And now these ghosts of the wives and the mother are trying to tell her, you need to survive because we couldn't, and here's our pain. So Thomas hints at this. He says, where I come from, ghosts are not to be taken lightly. But he can't see the ghosts. Lucille can't see the ghost. Edith can see the ghost. And there's a thing where her doctor friend, who is kind of like, Edith's doctor friend is supposed to be like her ideal suitor, who's awesome. He reminds me of Heath Ledger.
He's played by Jax from Sons of Anarchy.
Yes, that's where he got his start. He's so great. He's kind of like into like photograph manipulation and also ghosts and stuff. And he says houses can actually retain impressions of the past because of minerals that are found in the soil. So I want you to recall that this is a clay mine, and the clay is red and it's oozing up from the floor. It looks like blood. It's a really like, it's such, of course, like a Gothic story is. Yeah. It's so aesthetic. It's so like, you're just immersed in this beautiful, rich world. Yeah. So that's kind of where the ghosts come from, it's hinted, if you're paying attention. And Paul and I were watching this together, again, last night, and I was saying, do you think the murder of the mother kind of forges the pain of the whole house? It kind of starts that, as we were talking about with Rachel's, negative energy that's happening in the house. And so Paul called the mother's haunting the spiritual epicenter of the house, which I thought was really fucking cool.
It's perfect, yeah.
So there's that, and moreover, the style of the ghosts is so different with this movie. They are all practical effects. The actors had prosthetics put on them and everything, and they literally acted out the movements of the ghosts, and all the ghosts are red, like the clay. Tom Hiddleston kind of reflected that their features have been distorted by the emotional torment that they've gone through. So the actors had something to react to, or Edith had something to react to. You know, I think one thing people remember from this movie is the ghost crawling down the hallway, and she's doing this, like, shuddery, like, movement.
Yeah.
It is scary. It's
it
really
is.
scary. And then they added on the wispy stuff later. You know, I really love the way they did that, because those are their human bodies. Those are their human corpses.
Have you ever
I
seen
love
the
that.
movie Mama?
I love Mama.
Their movements reminded me of Mama.
Same, yeah. So I had a question. Is this the Victorian reaction to seeing a ghost? Edith seems to be terrified, but also is trying to follow what's going on. And I think with them being a lot closer to death, I really think that she's seeing these ghosts as human. And I think when we see ghosts today, we're like, oh, that was scary.
Yeah.
Or, you know, is it real or not? But I think those ghosts are so solid, and I think to Victorian people, like, that solid reality of death was there. And so the ghosts were more tangible and everything, as far as, like, in the imagination or something. I don't know. I kind of had that question.
I think part of it also is that because she had experiences of being haunted previously with her mother, it made it easier for her, I guess, to believe what she was seeing because she'd seen it. But I think a lot of people, even at that time, would be like, you know, I didn't really see that. That was my imagination.
Right.
You know, obviously there's no such thing as ghosts, but because she had had previous experiences with being haunted, I think it made her more likely to believe what she was seeing because she already believed in ghosts.
I also wonder if a previous wife saw those ghosts but was unable to defend herself ultimately.
I don't know. I thought they kind of made it seem like Edith stuck around longer than the other ones, but maybe not. The one thing that was confusing in this movie was how long she had been at the house.
Yeah, you're right.
I wasn't real clear on the passage of time. I mean, it seems in the movie like she's there for like a week when all this goes down, but I feel like it has to have been longer.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it was because when the movie starts, there's, I don't even know why I noticed this, there's leaves falling through the hole in the house. And
it's winter by the time that...
Yeah, so I think it's
Deep
like
winter.
Ends, right.
fall to winter sort
Perhaps
of a thing.
just a couple months.
Yeah. I did get the feeling that she was there longer than most, mostly because of the sister. She seemed to really be pushing her brother, like, she's supposed to be dying.
But I also think that another aspect of the story is that Thomas is actually in love with Edith.
Yeah.
And I believe that Lucille is definitely picking up on that. And I think her rushing of him is like, you need to kill this bitch.
Yeah.
Because she's in my way. Because,
Oh my god.
guess what? They're brother and sister, but they're getting it on, and they always have been. And, you know, this is a sort of thing that I'm not going to say you have to accept in this sort of gothic story, but it's something that happens quite a bit. And they consider their relationship to be real love, and it's a real kind of love, and it's fucked up, but, you know, their mother was a horrible person who kept them locked together. They never saw anyone else. They felt...
Fairy flowers in the attic.
It's so V.C. Andrews. So we have to accept, no matter how fucked up these kinds of love is legitimate in this story, legitimate but wrong and fucked up. Those things can all exist together.
So I saw this movie in the theater. So when there was the reveal, and she's, like, giving him a hand job, like, everyone in the theater screamed. That was the only time that everybody screamed. Everyone went, oh my god! Including me and Claire, who I saw it with, who was terrified throughout this whole movie. She
That's
does not like
awesome.
scary movies, but she was a good sport and went with me anyway. But,
I have to say that...
like, everybody screamed.
Yeah.
Everybody screamed at that part. Everyone was like, oh my god, great!
You know what's funny, though? Is, like, it's so obvious. It's so obvious. Like,
Well, I saw it coming, but then to actually, like, see her, like, giving him a hand job on screen, that's what I think what pushed people over the edge.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
Because usually movies just, like, hint at it. Like, oh, there's something creepy going on between the brother and sister, but, like, are they having sex, or is it just, like, weird attachment issues or what? But this movie was like, guess what, guys?
It worked, though. I think it totally worked because,
Oh,
like,
it totally
that was when all bets were off, and Lucille was like, yeah, guess what, dude? You're fucking, like, we're gonna kill you and everything. And it was terrifying and upsetting emotionally because she's so innocent. She's so legitimately in love with him, and this is what's happening and everything. So anyway, this kind of is a good transition, is that this is supposed to be a gothic love story. There are some quotes from the movie. Tom Hiddleston's character says, perfection has no place in love. So that's kind of a theme. Also, at a sort of climax, forgive me, of the story, Edith and Lucille are having a face-off, and one of the, if not the best quote from the movie. Edith asks her, why all this horror? I don't understand why you did this. And Lucille says, the horror was for love. The things we do for love like this are ugly, mad, full of sweat and regret. This love burns you and maims you and twists you inside out. It is a monstrous love, and it makes monsters of us all.
Oh my gosh.
Chills, dude.
Yeah.
And it's such a great summation of those kind of hidden themes in the movies and in the movie. And Guillermo del Toro says, normally in Gothic romance, females end up being damsels in danger, which I saw during my Gothic short story class. I mean, it happened over and over. They end up being rescued by Fabio without a shirt. I wanted this movie to be very centric to the female figures. Somewhere else I saw it said, this movie asked the question, can females be monsters? Which I think is great, not just because of the monster aspect, but because they offer such detailed female characters in a narrative that traditionally offers one-dimensional female characters. But it's not just the female characters that are layered, it's the males and the females, and god damn it, that's the way it should be in every single story, because, like, what the fuck? You know, so that I really admire. He really loved this story.
That's kind of just how Guillermo del Toro is in general, though. I mean,
Yes.
I read his Strain series. I can't remember who else he did it with right now. But
Chuck Hogan.
yeah, that's who it is. He always has great female characters. I mean, also in Pacific Rim, too. I mean, there are plenty of strong female characters. I mean, he just, across the board, he's just great. Just leave it at that.
Yeah.
Okay.
His set, he said Crimson Peak was his favorite set he'd ever done because the house, they built that house.
Oh
like,
my
in
gosh.
Pinewood Studios in Toronto, they built the whole house, like, all the little details, everything you see, it's all real. It's all real. And they actually had multiple instances of the word fear carved in places, so it would be like a subliminal message to people. And I never saw it outright once, but that's awesome. And there's a featurette on the DVD if you get it. I'm sure you can see it on YouTube too. Tom Hiddleston actually takes you through the house and does a tour of the house before it's torn down, which is sad because I live there. He's like,
it's beautiful.
he's going, we've lived here for 3 weeks and I'm really sad for this to be torn down.
Yeah.
So the last thing I want to say about Crimson Peak is we have to comment on the, what I would call is the kind of false marketing of the film.
Yeah.
Audiences were expecting an average horror film, and the trailers made it look like that, and they were disappointed that the elements of horror were much more psychological and subtle than they'd expected. And let's go way back to episode 1, where we talked about The Witch. Same deal.
Yeah.
The movies are different examples, but the same thing happened with these movies. But many people still did like it, and I found a Tumblr review by this user called Well and Truly that cracked me up earlier. She writes this, I believe it's a she, as right after she saw Crimson Peak in the theaters, and she said, you know those posts or quotes that are going around about Crimson Peak that are like, hey ladies, ever wanted to be invited along for the horror adventure? True. Crimson Peak rolls up in an ornate black nightmare carriage and leans out the window to holler, get in, loser, we're going horroring. And you're like, yes, let me just grab a shawl that perfectly coordinates with my massively elaborate dress. And Crimson Peak gushes, oh my god, you look great.
That is so absolutely perfect.
Beautiful review. And that's how I feel when I watch this movie.
Yeah.
I get so many great feels from it. And I just appreciate that it exists and that it was made especially in this time period.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to lose stuff like that. I love it.
Yeah.
No, Gothic horror is great. And I actually find that as more and more, I guess you could call them like art house type horror movies are coming out, like The Witch, like Crimson Peak, like there was just one that came out this year called, I think it was called like It Comes at Night.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, unfortunately, there is no way to market them without like ruining the movie.
Yeah.
And so they have to go to these traditional, because I did see It Comes at Night. It was amazing. But people who saw the trailer, that was not the movie. There is no It. I mean, first of all, It Comes at Night. It makes you seem like it's a monster. It's not really a big spoiler to tell you there is no monster in this movie. But I don't know how else they could have marketed it without giving away the entire movie. I definitely feel the same way about The Witch. And I kind of feel the same way about Crimson Peak. I don't understand how you could have marketed it without either saying this is a love story or this is a scary movie.
Right.
Without giving away, like, half the plot.
When it came out and I watched it for the first time, I was actually very upset. Literally just because I don't like love stories. And so when I watched it, I was like, this is something I would watch on a date with a horror fan.
Oh my god.
Or something like that. Like, this is just a romance. But I grew appreciation for it. Okay, it came out in 2015. I had just graduated high school. I have completely changed as a person, and I can appreciate it so much more now. But I know with all of the commercials and everything for it, I was so excited because I loved Guillermo del Toro. It looked beautiful. And then when I watched it, I was like, what the fuck? I just sat through a 2-hour love story. How did they trick me into this?
I guess I knew intuitively what it was going to be because I was in that Gothic short story class when this trailer was released.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, I know what this is going to be.
Yeah.
What were you saying, Rachel?
It's exactly the same. Because I've read so many Gothic books, I knew right away, well, this is going to have a romance in it. It's a Gothic story. Duh. There's always a romance.
Or at least I knew, not because of the romance, I knew what, like, the feel it was going to have. I knew it wasn't going to have that super, I don't want to say suspenseful, but, like, it was going to be whatever you would consider to be Gothic. Like, it was going to be that. I just knew that.
Well, I didn't have a lot of experience with Gothic literature, so...
I got lucky, and I got in there real quick with the class, and I just fell in love with it, and then this trailer came out, and I was like, okay, let's do this. I'm ready.
Well, what I've noticed is that Guillermo del Toro has a way of, like, packing in the punch with sad stuff when you don't expect it.
Oh, yeah.
Because... the end of the Strain books is so fucking sad, and I was so sad about it that I actually tweeted at him, and I was like, I have a bone to pick with you. Why is this ending so sad? He responded! He did, which is the last thing I expected. He was like, but it's not though, it's so beautiful, and I was like, yeah, it's beautiful, but it's fucking sad!
Yeah, Guillermo. It can be sad and beautiful at the same time. You just broke my fucking heart.
Yeah, I was like, that hurt! Why'd you do that? Yeah, it was hilarious. He had like a full-on conversation with me, which was kind of insane.
It's wonderful when celebrities reply to your tweets. Okay, so Anne Rice and I disagreed on something once. It was about internet bullying. And then the second thing we disagreed on was whenever she replies to my Facebook posts, we never agree. She was like, I'm gonna get 2 parrots. And I was like, no, Anne, you're not. Because I had a parrot. And you're 70. And like, sorry, but parrots need so much attention. And they're gonna die. And everyone was telling her this. But she was like asking questions and everything. I was like, seriously, not 2, maybe 1, probably not even 1. Get a rabbit. Like, and it was so great.
That's fantastic.
I love Anne Rice, but it's so
Hilarious.
interesting is you don't always agree with the people you idolize.
Yeah.
Like, Anne Rice and I have so many different opinions about things, and she makes me angry sometimes. And I'm sure people like me and I make her angry.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
That was fun.
Are we
Good choices, everybody.
Yes!
That was,
That
a lot
was
of
fun.
Raining
I love the
raining
haunted
here,
house.
so I guess it ended up raining after all. But great choices, everyone.
But anyway, something happened to me. I was in LeClaire yesterday.
Oh, God.
And my mom and I were window shopping.
Did you almost get hit by a car?
No. I saw books in the window. So we went in this shop. And it's like something out of a Stephen King novel.
What shop was it?
I don't even know the name of
Was
it.
it Aunt Hattie's?
No. This was an old diner that had never been redone. And
Is it the Crane and the
No,
Pelican?
no,
Because that
no.
was a funeral home.
No.
Oh.
2 old men are sitting in there.
I don't even know it.
It's this tiny old diner, 2 old guys, and there's just stacks of books that we would throw away if they came into the book rack. And I'm like, hi. And it's just junk and old rusty shit behind the counter. And I look at a book and the guy goes, you can't have that. And my mom is with me, and it's a book about the Day of the Dead. And he goes, do you know anything about the Day of the Dead, young lady?
Oh, my God.
And I said, well, yeah, it's a celebration in Mexico and blah, blah, blah. And he goes, we have to talk, young lady. And these old men keep trying to, like, have conversation, and it looks like nothing in their shop is for sale, but they have their door open, and my mom and I are, like, trying to slowly edge out of there.
There's a lot of creepy old guys in LeClaire. That's like a thing.
Like, stuff like this. I'm not saying, like, it seriously scared me that I almost lost my life this week, or that I have this big life revelation, or sometimes it can be that thing, but I'm thinking, like, say something that scared you that is maybe a little bit lighthearted.
I have a thing.
Okay.
It's kind of a boring thing. It's not anything that exciting. But my mom is on a vacation with her sisters right now, so it's just my dad and I in the house. And so we have our bedroom doors open so our dog can go back and forth. And she has been going back and forth in the middle of the night. Yeah, she's adorable, but she's going back and forth between our rooms. And one night, I woke up, and she was right in my face. I think I was so tired that I just went back to sleep. But when I woke up in the morning, I remembered it, and I was like, what the fuck happened? Why was she in my face like that?
She's probably checking to see if you were still
That's
alive.
what they do. Like, my childhood, like, my dog that we had growing up, he used to do the same thing. Like, I would wake up, and I swear to God, him staring at me is what would wake me up. And he would just be staring in my face, like, are you up? Oh, good, you're awake now.
Yeah.
Give me cookies or whatever.
Yeah. Well, I think that's what she was doing. I think she was trying to get me to wake up, but, like, I was exhausted, but at the same time, I think I thought to myself, like, I can't open my eyes all the way, because if I do, she's gonna attack me. Because that's what she does to my mom. When my mom's sleeping, like, taking a nap, she gets up on her chest and just stares at her face until she wakes up. And if my mom opens one eye, she just, like, attacks with kisses.
Well, she's like, great, since you're awake.
Yeah. So I was, like, middle of the night, exhausted, I was like, oh, okay, go back to sleep. Like, need her to go back to bed. Yeah. So that's all I got for you. I haven't really had anything scary happen.
All I did is get totally obsessed with a true crime case. Like, that was my whole week. Like, I'm so
Which
tired. I
one?
don't do anything but go to work and sleep.
Which one?
Oh, okay. So, maybe like a week or a week and a half ago, there was, it was in this town, like, outside of Cincinnati. This woman and her fiance were having this gender reveal party. You know, like, all their family and friends are there, whatever. And, you know, the party is kind of wound down. Like, some people have gone home. But there's still people there, and, like, there's kids there and everything. And all of a sudden, these 2 guys bust into the house and just start shooting. Right? And almost everyone in the house gets shot. Like, the cousin, I think, of the girl, either the cousin of the pregnant woman or the cousin of the fiance, dies. Like, kids are shot. The one woman was the only casualty. So the pregnant woman gets shot in the leg. When she gets out of the hospital, you know, she tells the cops, she tells the press that she had lost the baby. Now, as someone who's pregnant, I thought that was kind of weird. I thought, you know, gosh, I mean, by the time I found out that I was having a boy, I was 5 months along. At that point, your miscarriage rate is like 3% or lower.
Yeah, and she got shot in the leg.
And I thought, you know, God, she only got shot in the leg. But then I thought, you know, the trauma of being shot, I could see where that would trigger even a later term miscarriage. Well, I should have gone with my gut, because guess what?
She set it
She
up?
was never pregnant.
Oh.
She was never pregnant.
Holy shit.
And I don't understand, because someone, like one of her relatives had put up pictures from the party, and her belly was like huge. Like a pregnant belly, not a fat belly.
I mean,
You can
like,
buy stuff that's
a
like...
pregnant belly.
I ate a lot of Sonic mozzarella sticks one time. And
Those
dude,
mozzarella
No,
sticks are good.
it was like as big as my belly. Like, you'll see me in like a week and a half. Like, my belly has gotten really big, but it's just my stomach. Like, I have really not gained weight anywhere else. Just my stomach. And that's what she looks like.
wow.
Like, you can find the pictures online. Like, she looks pregnant.
Wow.
So, I don't understand. My guess is that she told the wrong person she was pregnant and had to come up with a way to get rid of the baby. Now, why you wouldn't just say you had a miscarriage, I don't know. Because eventually, at some point, people are going to notice that, like, you don't have a baby.
Okay, so did she set this up, or like?
Nobody knows. All the cops will say is that she was never pregnant. Not like, oh, she had a miscarriage previously and just didn't tell people. No, she was never pregnant. And because they can tell. I mean, they can do an exam and tell if you've been pregnant within the last year.
Yeah, your
or
hormones
more.
are probably different, or like just the
No,
whatsoever.
but you'll have, I don't, something in your pelvis. You'll have traces that you were pregnant within the last year.
Yeah, like your uterus
So-
probably looks different or something.
Exactly. So all the cops will say is that happened and that there has been other misleading information, but they won't say what it is, and that they're going to go to the prosecutor, and they're saying these people are not acting like the victims of a crime. Because, of course, they're liars. I don't know, but I'm obsessed.
That's really
That's what the
interesting.
idea that you would go so far as to have a gender reveal party if you weren't pregnant.
So-
And apparently, like, some people were posting in, like, the comments on the article that, like, this girl, I guess, was involved in some kind of weird Facebook video where people were, like, beating her. This is, like, a year or two ago. People were, like, beating her up, and they, like, shaved her head and, like, wrote something on her forehead. But then, like, that somehow it was, like, a hoax. Or, like, so clearly this woman has issues.
I mean, it sounds
But
like
yeah.
Munchausen's almost, that, like, you just need people to
Yeah,
dote
you
around
need
you.
Such a narcissist, you need that attention. But I don't know. But the thing I can't figure out is the belly. I mean, unless she was wearing like a sympathy pad,
How the
like
hell
a
was
fake
that
pregnant
working?
belly.
You know, everyone wants to touch your belly, right? So, like, how the
Yeah,
fuck
but
did
those
she
can
do that?
feel like real stomachs, and your bump can change. I mean, like today, the baby was real low, so my stomach didn't look as big.
Huh?
But when he moves up, my stomach looks bigger.
huge, yeah.
Just depending on where he is.
Huh.
I could see people attributing, like, oh, her stomach feels weird, but oh, that must just be kind of skin because the baby is down lower, so that part of your stomach isn't as hard right now, right?
I keep thinking of Baby Mama. Have you guys seen that? You haven't seen
Yes, where she fakes being pregnant.
Yeah, and she has that like fake stomach that she pumps up with air, and she flattens it and she can make it bigger and stuff like that.
Wow.
Yeah, that's all I keep thinking about. I bet she had something like that.
But that says to me though that clearly then the fiance must have been in on it.
Of
Yeah.
course he
Where
was.
he was conveniently not in the house.
Yeah.
He was like the only one that was like in the garage or something when this was happening. But he must have been in on it because clearly he's seen her with her clothes off. I mean, my boyfriend would know right away if I like wasn't pregnant anymore. I mean,
Yeah. Oh man, that's weird.
Yeah, that is.
Oh, and then there was that police shooting of the Australian woman for no reason. Like, she reported a sexual assault.
Oh,
and
I heard about that.
Yeah, what the fuck that's not...
Oh, I gotta go home and finish The Stand and read the last Dark Tower book. So,
all right.
that's a good ending. I'm
That'll
so
be
close
great.
to being done with The Stand. It's so freaking good, except for the female characters, which I told you about.
Oh.
If you, ignore that, which is kind of annoying to ignore, it's so good. It's such a good book.
Which I do find to be funny, because usually he writes such good female characters, but...
Yeah, which I was talking to my dad about today. I was like, it's really weird reading The Stand because, even the main female character, she's pregnant. And so she kind of, needs help anyways along the way. But then also they create this community and this board to make decisions. And she isn't even one of the main people on the board. She's just a secretary. And she's one of the main characters. She does narration.
Like him, though, it seems
Yeah, she does narration. And she's, doted upon and all that. It's it was the weirdest thing. It almost didn't even feel like a Stephen King novel because of that. But the rest of it is fantastic. So, yeah.
Okay.
I gotta finish The Stand.
Yeah. Well, I'm excited to finish the thing I'm reading. I'm reading Alias Grace next by Margaret.
Yay, I read that.
I'm interested because it's almost like Lizzie Borden-esque, except the maid doesn't seem actually guilty, but I'm not sure. It's based on a real woman who's convicted of murder of her boss and his mistress, and it's like a novel.
Oh,
so it's going to be interesting. It's like a Canadian thing.
I read it for a book club a couple years ago.
I'm excited. I have to get through it real quick, though, because I'm going back to school soon, and I will not have time to read anything.
I know. I don't have the energy to read right now, so I'm rewatching Stranger Things.
Yes!
And I find that this time rewatching it, I cry way more often when it's stuff involving the kids.
Oh, no.
Oh my god, those kids! The poor mom!
Oh, jeez.
But I'm so excited. Well, I kept seeing the poster for season 2, and so I was like, I'm gonna rewatch season 1. I really loved that show.
It was so good. I'm so excited.
And it's gonna come out, the second season's gonna come out when I'm on maternity leave, so I'm sure I'll watch the whole thing in a day.
Oh, yeah.
There you go.
Just sit there with the baby and be like, okay, man, we're gonna watch this.
So, I guess for this week we can announce the next episode that we're going to be doing. But I guess after this week, we're going to be launching our Patreon, and one of the rewards is the first reward, if you donate $1 a month, is learning what the next episode is.
That's the second. The first is the shout outs.
Oh, God. I can't remember.
Second tier, if you donate $2.
You get to know what we're doing the next week and some details about it. So, we're gonna, I guess we're gonna be mean and cut that off for now, but if you, there's no not terrible way to do this. I feel
talk about Patreon.
Well, to talk about donating.
Yeah.
So many people just do it to scam people, and it's awful.
But that's definitely not the intention. We're just
it actually costs money to podcast. Who knew that?
Yeah.
We didn't when we started this, so it would be nice if we could, if you like what we're doing, give back $1 a month or something.
Yeah.
And then we can pay for the stuff we have to pay for to do this. So
yeah, and
it's a purely practical thing.
Episode quality is probably gonna skyrocket.
Yeah.
I mean, when we have more funds, but yeah.
So it's an unfortunate practicality of doing stuff. So
yep.
But so this week we're going to announce it, though, probably for the last time, the next thing that we're going to do.
Yeah.
Does anyone know the topic?
I think it's feminist horror.
Next week we're doing feminist horror, which is going to be super fun. It doesn't have to be a movie. We can do books too.
Okay.
I think I've
I
already
have no
picked one.
idea what I'm gonna
Does
do.
that-
I have literally no ideas right now.
It's a wholly great feminist film, or
All right.
depending on our opinion. So it's
I'm
going to
so
be
mad
really
that
interesting.
Somebody did the Descent now because.
Uh-oh. My bad. It's great.
No, I'm just kidding. I'm gonna think about it.
Okay, I have something that's happened to me that was scary. Is one of my friends just messaged me and said, "Are you singing tonight at karaoke?" Obviously, he wants to be frightened.
That's funny.
Maybe? Question mark. I might go. I never planned on it, but okay. So, yeah.
What's the ending of this episode even
I don't
gonna
know.
be?
Bye, guys.